Have you ever wondered what the best living arrangement is for your aging loved ones? Whether it's staying in the family home, moving in with relatives, or choosing a senior living community, each option comes with its own set of challenges and rewards. In this video, we'll delve into real-life stories and expert insights to help you navigate this crucial decision. Stay tuned until the end to discover practical strategies and heartfelt advice that can transform how you support your family's golden years. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me. And if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. First story, living with your children. As my parents began to age, they clung tightly to a vision they had nurtured for years, the dream of living with one of their children in their golden years. To them, it was the perfect picture of comfort, security, and love. The family gathered under one roof, sharing meals, laughter, and precious time. My younger brother and I knew how much this meant to them. From a young age, they had spoken about it with such emotion, imagining how they would grow old surrounded by the warmth of family, their lives intertwined with ours. I can still recall their hopeful smiles, their eyes lighting up whenever they talked about it. But as much as they held on to that dream, it placed a weight on both of us, especially my brother. My brother, feeling the unspoken pressure to fulfill this expectation, even went so far as to choose his future wife based on how well she would integrate into our family, particularly how she would get along with our parents. It was a priority for him, not just to find love, but to find someone who could fit seamlessly into the life our parents had envisioned for all of us. He believed, maybe even naively, that by ensuring his wife could satisfy our parents' expectations, he could create the perfect, harmonious life we all hoped for. I watched him go through several relationships, each time hoping that the girl he brought home would meet with approval. But each time, it seemed to end the same way. My parents would find something they didn't like, something that didn't fit their idea of the ideal daughter-in-law. They would say she wasn't traditional enough, or that she didn't have the domestic skills they valued so highly. It was heartbreaking to watch. My brother was often torn, caught between the love he felt for these women and the desire to make our parents happy. He tried so hard to please them, even at the expense of his happiness. By the time he reached 30, my brother finally met a woman who checked all the boxes. She was traditional, respectful, and had all the domestic skills our parents cherished. It felt like a victory. There was a collective sigh of relief from all of us, as if we could finally settle into the future we had all imagined. My parents were delighted, and for a brief moment, everything seemed to fall into place. The first impressions were glowing, and there was so much hope that their life together would be one of harmony and joy. But, as is often the case, reality proved to be more complicated. The initial harmony gave way to tension as the generational differences between my parents and my brother's new family became increasingly pronounced. My parents, deeply rooted in their traditional values, placed great importance on things like daily family meals and spending time together as a unit. They believed this was the glue that held the family together. But my brother and his wife, both of whom had demanding careers and busy social lives, found it difficult to maintain these traditions. For them, the modern pace of life didn't allow for such rituals, and they began to prioritize their professional commitments over family dinners. What started as small, subtle differences in lifestyle soon grew into deep resentments. My parents felt hurt, disrespected, and overlooked. In their eyes, the refusal to sit down for regular family meals was a sign that my brother and his wife were neglecting the family. It was as if their dream of a close-knit family was slipping through their fingers, and they didn't know how to hold on to it. Meanwhile, my brother and his wife were struggling to balance their own lives, trying to juggle work, social obligations, and the pressure of living up to my parents' expectations. The atmosphere in the house became tense, filled with an unspoken frustration that neither side knew how to address. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The situation became even more strained when my sister-in-law had a baby. What should have been a time of celebration and joy quickly turned into yet another point of conflict. My mother, who was fiercely traditional in her views on childcare, insisted on raising the baby in a way that reflected her upbringing. She had strong beliefs about how things should be done, from feeding schedules to the baby's sleeping arrangements. But my sister-in-law, who had been reading up on modern, science-based childcare practices, disagreed with my mother on almost every point. Every conversation between the two of them seemed to ignite a new disagreement. What should have been a bonding experience between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law turned into a battleground, with both of them clinging to their beliefs and refusing to give an inch. It was painful to watch. My brother, caught in the middle, found himself torn between his loyalty to his wife and his desire to keep the peace with our parents. He tried desperately to mediate, to find some middle ground where everyone could coexist peacefully, but it seemed impossible. The more he tried to smooth things over, the worse the situation became. Frustration built up on all sides, and what had once been small disagreements snowballed into full-blown arguments. The house, which had once been filled with hope and the promise of family harmony, now felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Eventually, my brother and his wife made the painful decision to move out. It wasn't a choice they made lightly. They knew it would hurt our parents deeply, but they couldn't continue living in such a toxic environment. The emotional toll had become too great, and the constant tension was straining their marriage. They needed space, not just for themselves, but for their new family. So they packed up and left, leaving behind a trail of broken dreams and unresolved hurt. Looking back, it's clear that this was a difficult lesson for all of us. Living with your parents, especially as an adult, can be fraught with challenges. Generational differences can create deep misunderstandings, and the close quarters of shared living can sometimes amplify conflicts rather than foster connection. While not all families experience the same level of tension, our story revealed just how fragile the dream of multi-generational living can be. But for every story like ours, there are others where families find joy and strength in living together. Take the Suter family, for instance. They've managed to create a harmonious multi-generational home where parents, children, and grandchildren all live together under one roof. Their secret seems to be in balancing togetherness with independence. Each family unit has its own space, with separate kitchens, allowing for privacy and autonomy. But every night, without fail, they come together for a shared meal. It's their way of staying connected, of reinforcing their family bond. The Center family holds weekly meetings where everyone shares their thoughts, feelings, and updates on their lives. It's a time to come together, to communicate openly, and to strengthen their ties. For the Cedar family, multi-generational living is a source of comfort, not conflict. They find peace in seeing their children and grandchildren every day. The parents cherish the opportunity to offer guidance and support, and to be a part of their children's lives in a meaningful way. For them, there is no greater joy than being surrounded by family. And for many elderly parents, the fear of loneliness in old age is very real. As health declines and social circles shrink, the desire to be close to family becomes even more pressing. They want to feel needed, to be a part of something larger than themselves. However, proximity alone is not enough to sustain a loving relationship. If the affection and connection between parents and children aren't genuine, living together can feel suffocating. It's not the walls that create closeness, but the love, respect, and understanding that are shared. That's why some elderly parents prefer to live nearby rather than in the same house. It offers the best of both worlds, the ability to stay close and maintain regular contact while preserving the independence that both generations often need. In the end, the decision of where to live in old age is a deeply personal one. It's a choice that should be guided not by societal expectations or family pressure, but by what brings the most peace and happiness to the individual. Some find joy in living with their children and grandchildren, while others prefer the comfort of living nearby, where they can maintain their own space but still enjoy the warmth of family connections. What truly matters isn't where you live, but the love and respect that sustain the relationships within a family. Second story, finding comfort in independence. Elv and Yura, loving parents of 2 children, made a decision that surprised many people when they chose not to have either of their children live with them. Even though both reside and work nearby in Hanoi in a world where multi-generational living is often the norm, their choice to encourage independence over closeness was both unexpected and insightful. When it came time for their children, Sikaravi and Lasra, to get married, Elv and Yura didn't hesitate to gently nudge them toward establishing their own homes. They understood that while family ties are precious, they don't necessarily need to be bound by walls. Laura, in particular, knew firsthand the challenges of living under the same roof with in-laws. As a daughter-in-law herself once, she had experienced the tension that often comes from trying to balance different generations' needs and expectations. It was this experience that shaped her belief: once a child marries, they need to start their own life in their own home. She felt that this distance would allow their children to grow as individuals and partners without the added pressure of living under treacherous, watchful eyes. 3 years ago, when their youngest son was newly married but hadn't yet saved enough to buy his own home, he asked if he and his wife could stay with Elv and Ray temporarily. Many parents might have said yes with open arms, letting their children stay as long as needed. But Laura, ever the pragmatic one, agreed on the condition that their stay would only last 3 months. It wasn't about being tough or unkind, she explained. It was about looking out for their future. I wanted them to get used to the idea of standing on their own 2 feet. She believed that different generations naturally have different lifestyles and rhythms, and living together for too long would inevitably lead to conflicts. She knew this from her own experiences and wanted to avoid any potential strain in their relationship. At the end of those 3 months, their son and his wife moved out, having found a rental while continuing to save for a home of their own. Now, both of their sons are settled nearby. Their eldest son lives just 10 miles away, a convenient distance for his daily commute to work. Their youngest son bought an apartment right next door to their family home. This proximity allows them all to remain close emotionally and geographically, without infringing on each other's personal space. On weekends, the whole family gathers at Elv and Yura's house for meals, relaxation, and quality time together. It's the best of both worlds. They have their space during the week but come together regularly, maintaining the family bond without the complications of sharing a home. When asked about their plans for the future, as they continue to age, Elv and Rye are refreshingly candid. "We plan to sell this big 4-story house," they said, "and use half the money to buy a smaller, more manageable apartment. The rest will go towards our retirement. If we become too frail, we won't burden our children. We'll hire help or consider moving to a senior living community." They are clear-eyed and practical about the realities of aging, preferring to maintain their independence and not become a source of stress for their children. Their approach is both refreshing and inspiring. They recognize the beauty of family ties, but also the importance of self-sufficiency. Similarly, Lasra's mother took a similar path, choosing to live independently in her later years. Even though her 2 adult children are married and frequently ask her to move in with them, she has resisted the idea. She still lives in the countryside, in the family home where she spent much of her life. It's a decision that might baffle some, but to her, it's the only way to truly live. "I have friends here," she says, "people I've known for years. We socialize, and we look out for each other. The city might be convenient, but it's lonely. Doors open and close all day with little interaction, and people are always in a rush." She knows that life in the city would mean watching her children leave early in the morning and return late at night, engrossed in their own lives, their faces glued to computers or phones. The idea of moving to the city, only to feel like a stranger in her own children's home, holds no appeal for her. When she visits them, she notices how much their lives revolve around technology and the fast-paced city life. Their routine is so different from mine, she explains. They rush out in the morning, return late, and the only time they interact with me is for a quick hello or goodbye. It's a far cry from the communal lifestyle she enjoys in the village, where people stop to chat, share meals, and look after one another. Let them live their lives as they wish, she says with the tone of acceptance. Meanwhile, I continue to enjoy the village lifestyle. If I get sick, I know my children won't be able to care for me 24 hours a day. I'll hire a caregiver, and that's fine. They can visit me when they can, and that's enough. What's striking about both Elv and Ra, as well as Lasra's mother, is the confidence and peace they have in their decision to live independently. It's not about rejecting their children or distancing themselves emotionally. It's about acknowledging that their children have their own lives to live and that they, too, deserve to maintain their autonomy and happiness. They have taken the time to prepare for old age, not just financially but emotionally. They understand that being close doesn't mean sharing a home, and that love and support can exist even at a distance. This trend towards independence in later life reflects a broader shift in modern society. More and more elderly people are choosing to take charge of their own lives, rather than relying on their children for care or support. It's a shift away from the traditional multi-generational household model that dominated many cultures for centuries. Today's elderly parents are more likely to prioritize their happiness and well-being, living nearby or independently while maintaining strong relationships with their children. They eat when they want, travel when they please, socialize with friends, and, if necessary, move to senior living communities where they can enjoy their later years without the stress of being a burden to their families. It's a decision rooted in love for their children and love for themselves. By planning and maintaining control over their lives, they ensure that their later years are as full and harmonious as possible. If this story resonates with you or gives you a new perspective on aging and independence, leave a comment below. Let us know if you found this video useful. Press 1 if it helped, or 0 if you think we could improve. Your feedback is valuable in helping us create more meaningful content. Third story: embracing senior life in a nursing home. After her husband passed away, La Suriname made a decision that shocked everyone around her, especially her children. She sold the family home, the place that had held so many memories, and used her pension to move into a private nursing home. This choice was met with bewilderment and even embarrassment by her children, who couldn't understand why their mother would choose such a path when she had a family who could care for her. To them, it felt like a failure, as though they had neglected their duty to look after her in her old age. The idea of their mother living in a nursing home filled them with guilt, as they worried what people might think that they had abandoned her when she needed them most. They feared the whispers of judgment that might follow. But Laura, calm and resolute, took the time to explain her reasons to her children. She wasn't choosing the nursing home out of a lack of love for them, or because she felt unwanted. She cherished her family deeply. However, she was realistic about her situation. At her age, her needs and lifestyle no longer matched the pace and demands of her children's and grandchildren's lives. Laura understood that living under one roof with her busy family might sound ideal on paper, but in reality, it would bring more discomfort than closeness. She would spend her days alone in an empty house while her children worked long hours, and her grandchildren attended school or activities. Urban life was isolating for her. The apartment complex she lived in had no neighbors her age, and the daily rush of the city left little room for meaningful interactions. In the nursing home, however, everything changed. Laura was surrounded by people her age, people with whom she could share her days, laugh, and reminisce. She no longer had to worry about cooking meals or cleaning. Everything was taken care of for her. Most importantly, she felt understood and cared for. Her children could visit her whenever they liked, and their visits were filled with love and connection because the pressure of caregiving was lifted. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. This arrangement gave both Laura and her children the freedom to live their own lives, knowing that everyone was in a place where they could thrive. Initially, her children still felt guilty, unsure if they'd made the right choice by supporting her decision. But seeing their mother happier and healthier than she had been in years slowly eased their worries. Laura would often spend vacations with her family, staying for a few weeks, but at the end of each visit, she was content to return to the nursing home, her new home. Whenever she visited friends who still lived with their children, Lasra shared her positive experience. She became an advocate for embracing this new chapter of life in a way that prioritized happiness and comfort. Many of her friends had never considered the possibility of living in a nursing home, still clinging to the traditional belief that it was the family's duty to care for the elderly. But Laura encouraged them to see it differently, urging them to think about what would truly make them feel fulfilled in their later years. Similarly, Sister Vi found herself at a crossroads. After her husband passed away, her only son moved to the city for work, started a family, and built a new life. Vi initially planned to stay in her rural home, where she had spent most of her life, but her children insisted she move to the city with them, not wanting her to live alone. Reluctantly, she agreed. For nearly 2 years, she lived with her son, but she felt like a prisoner in a gilded cage. Despite being surrounded by family, she spent most of her days alone, glued to the TV, with little to no social interaction. She missed the sense of community she had once had, the simple joys of chatting with neighbors or walking through her old village. One day, while watching TV, Sister Vi saw a program about nursing homes. The idea intrigued her, and she began to research it further. Eventually realizing that this might be the solution to her loneliness, she approached her children and asked if she could try living in a nursing home for a few months, just to see how it felt. Although they were initially hesitant, fearful that it might be seen as abandoning her, they agreed. To everyone's surprise, Sister V thrived in the nursing home. Her health improved as she engaged in social activities, made new friends, and received the care she needed. She felt alive again in a way she hadn't for years. After her trial period, she decided to make the move permanent, using her military pension to cover the costs. Her children, relieved to see her so happy and well cared for, knew they had made the right choice. The burden of managing her care was lifted, and they could now focus on spending quality time with her when they visited, knowing she was safe and content. For many years, the idea of sending elderly parents to a nursing home was steeped in shame and guilt. It was seen as a betrayal of family values, a sign that the children had failed in their duty. But the world is changing, and so are our perceptions of what it means to age. More and more elderly people are choosing to move into nursing homes, not because they've been abandoned, but because they seek a better quality of life, one filled with companionship, care, and independence. For some, it's the peace of mind that comes with knowing they are in a place where their needs are met. For others, it's the joy of living in a community of peers, sharing stories, meals, and laughter every day. These stories remind us that the most important thing is that our elderly loved ones are happy and content with the choices they make. Deciding where to spend your final years is deeply personal, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution. For some, living with their children brings comfort and fulfillment. For others, like Laura and Sister Vi, the nursing home offers the peace and joy they crave. What matters most is that parents and children respect each other's needs and find a balance that works for everyone. There's no longer any need to cling to the traditional belief that children must always care for their elderly parents at home. In many cases, allowing them to live independently or in a community designed for their needs can be the most loving choice of all. As we grow older, it's not about dependence, it's about finding peace, joy, and satisfaction every day. Aging is not an end, but a new chapter, one where we can embrace life fully and savor each moment. Whether we choose to live with family or in a nursing home, the key is to live with dignity, surrounded by the things and people that bring us happiness. Take control of your journey, make the choices that are right for you, and live a memorable and fulfilling senior life. Part 2. If your spouse dies first, the smartest way to live. Have you ever wondered how you would cope if your spouse passed away before you? It's a thought that many shy away from, but life is unpredictable, and sometimes the unexpected happens. Losing a partner, the person you built your life around, can leave you feeling lost, empty, and without direction. The silence in the house becomes deafening, and the weight of grief feels unbearable. But what if, even after such a profound loss, there were ways not only to survive but to truly thrive? What if some insights and lessons could help you rebuild your life, find meaning, and embrace a new chapter? In this segment, we delve into the inspiring stories of 3 individuals who have faced this heartbreaking loss and come out on the other side with wisdom to speak. They've learned what it means to continue living after a spouse dies, and they want to help others find hope, independence, and, most importantly, happiness, even when it seems impossible. Life, as we all know, is incredibly unpredictable. You can never truly know how long the person you love will be by your side. Misaki, one of the individuals who shared their journey with us, put it beautifully. Life is like a train, and everyone can only accompany you for part of the journey. When they have to get off, you should be grateful for the time they shared with you. If someone accompanies you for the entire journey, you should be even more grateful. These words speak volumes about the impermanence of life and remind us that every moment with a loved one is a gift, no matter how brief. Losing a spouse is one of the most devastating experiences a person can endure. The house once filled with warmth, laughter, and shared memories suddenly feels cold and empty. It's as if life itself has lost its foundation. For For many, the immediate reaction is to withdraw, to sink into the depths of grief and despair. But time, as harsh as it may seem, does not stop for anyone. The world keeps moving, and as impossible as it might feel, so must we. The deceased will not return, and clinging to the past can only delay the healing process. 3 individuals, all of whom have experienced this painful loss, want to share their personal stories with those in middle age and beyond. Their advice is simple but profound. If your spouse passes away before you, there are 3 things you should refuse to do to ensure that your remaining years are not just bearable but truly fulfilling. By following their guidance, you can live a life that is not defined by loss, but by resilience, peace, and even joy. Don't immerse yourself in excessive grief for too long. Imagine the unbearable pain of losing the person who has been by your side for the majority of your life. It's an agony that runs so deep that even the smallest memory can either bring comfort or flood your heart with unbearable sorrow. This is the story of Callista, a 67-year-old woman who faced the unimaginable when her husband passed away, leaving her alone to navigate the world without him. At a crossroads, she grappled with a question many in her situation are forced to confront. How do you continue living when the person you love most is gone? Callista's story is not just one of sorrow, but also resilience, hope, and the remarkable strength of the human spirit. It's a journey that many face at some point in their lives, how to move forward after the loss of a life partner. Her path was not easy, and her pain was overwhelming. But her story shows us that even in the darkest moments, there is always a way to find light and meaning again. When my husband passed away at 64, Callista recalls, every time I remember the moment he left, it's still hard to accept. The days that followed were filled with unbearable grief, as if she was merely existing, not truly living. During those days, I was like a walking corpse, feeling that life had no meaning. Many times I thought, well, I could follow him. She would cry herself to sleep, especially at night when she faced the daunting loneliness of the empty bed that had once held the 2 of them. It was a hollow kind of sadness, the kind that consumes you from the inside, leaving only a fragile shell behind. But even in her darkest hours, something within Callista wouldn't let her give up entirely. Every time I looked at our old photos, smiling so happily, she said, I thought maybe I should persist a little longer. My husband wouldn't want me to live like this. It was this thought, the belief that her husband would want her to continue living fully, that became her anchor. She realized that no matter how much she cried, no matter how deep her grief ran, her tears wouldn't bring him back. She had a choice to make. She could continue being swallowed by sadness, or she could choose to live well in his memory, letting him rest peacefully in the other world. It was a revelation that came slowly, but eventually Callista embraced it fully. In fact, she said, the separation of life and death is the saddest thing in the world, but the dead are gone, and the living must continue. She realized that while the memories of the past would always be with her, she couldn't let them prevent her from living in the present. No matter how sweet the memories are, you can't always live in the past and neglect the beauty of the present or the hopes of the future to her. Learning to live again wasn't just a duty to herself. It was a way to honor her husband and let him rest in peace. Callista's story teaches us that while the pain of losing a spouse is inevitable, immersing yourself in excessive grief for too long can prevent you from finding peace and joy in the life that remains. When a spouse dies first, it's crucial to find calm, comfort yourself, and focus on your health. Grief can cloud your mind, but it's important not to let it overwhelm you entirely. Gradually, you can adjust your mindset, regain confidence, and build a self-sufficient life. Encouraging herself daily, Callista adopted small habits that helped her find solace. Eat when you want, sleep when you can, stroll in the park, walk the streets. I don't depend on others for happiness. Learn to enjoy solitude with grace and wisdom, and nurture your spiritual world. She began to embrace her time alone, not as a burden, but as a quiet blessing. Embrace solitude as if you're sipping aged wine, savoring your life slowly and endlessly, she says. When loneliness would creep in, she reached out to friends, finding moments of joy and connection in their company. In this way, she ensured that her final years, though spent without her husband, would still be pleasant, full of peace and contentment. Dealing with the loss of a lifelong partner is, without question, one of the most difficult challenges anyone can face. Callista's story brings to light just how important it is to have these conversations and to understand the profound impact of grief. Her experience highlights the fact that grief is universal. It doesn't discriminate by age, gender, or culture. No matter who you are, losing someone you love will likely cause deep pain and loneliness. But knowing that others have gone through this and found a way forward can provide comfort. It reminds us that while grief is isolating, we are not truly alone in it. Callista's journey also shows us that there is no right way to grieve. The process is different for everyone. Some people might need more time to sit with their sadness, while others may find strength in moving forward more quickly. What matters most is that we don't lose ourselves in our grief, that we don't let it consume us to the point where we forget to live. Grief, as powerful as it is, should not be allowed to define the rest of our lives. The smartest way to live after losing a spouse is to find balance, to allow yourself to mourn, but also to allow yourself to heal. Remember, it's okay to take time to cry, to miss the person you've lost, but it's equally important to take steps toward a future filled with purpose and meaning. There is still beauty in life, even after loss, and by embracing the present, we can honor the ones we've lost by continuing to live fully. Callista's story is a reminder that while grief is inevitable, it's not forever. There is life beyond the pain, and in that life, we can find new reasons to smile, new joys to experience, and new memories to make. Let her story inspire you to take one small step each day toward healing, and in time, you too can find peace after loss. If Callista's story resonates with you or helps you feel less alone in your grief, let us know in the comments. Press 9 if this story touched you, or 0 if you think we can improve. Your feedback helps us continue to share these meaningful stories of hope and resilience. Thank you for your time, and remember, no matter what you're going through, you are never truly alone. Callista's journey is a profound testament to the incredible power of resilience, a word that holds so much weight but often feels distant when we're in the depths of despair. Her life was turned upside down, her heart shattered, and her sense of direction lost when tragedy struck. And yet, against all odds, she managed to rebuild her life, piece by piece, finding new meaning in a world that felt devoid of it. This is what truly moves me, her ability to rise from the ashes of her grief and discover purpose once more. It's a story that reminds us all that no matter how dark things seem, there's always a glimmer of hope if we hold on just long enough. Life is unpredictable, yes, and it can be incredibly painful, but Callista's experience tells us that joy is not lost forever. Her journey brings hope to anyone struggling, reassuring them that while the pain may never fully disappear, there is indeed a way forward, one that includes both joy and satisfaction. What resonates deeply with me in Callista's story is how she chose to prioritize her mental health and self-care amidst her immense grief. In times of such profound sorrow, it's easy to neglect ourselves, to fall into the trap of thinking we don't deserve to feel good, or even that we shouldn't. But Callista made a conscious choice to focus on her well-being, to find small pockets of joy even when the world felt overwhelming. She reached out to friends and allowed herself to rediscover happiness in life's little moments. This wasn't just an act of survival, it was an act of love for herself, and I find that incredibly powerful. Her story urges us all to remember that even in our darkest hours, self-care is essential. It's okay to seek support, to reach out, and to embrace life again, even when everything feels broken. Moreover, what touched me was how Callista leaned on memories to help her heal. Memories can be both a source of comfort and pain, but for her, looking through old photos and cherishing the happy moments with her husband became a healing balm. This simple act of remembering the good times can be a powerful tool for coping with loss, allowing us to honor the ones we've lost without getting trapped in the past. It's about finding a way to move forward while keeping the love we had alive in our hearts. I think that's such a beautiful way to live, remembering without being consumed, moving forward without forgetting. Callista's experience also underscores something so essential: living in the present and daring to look toward the future. Yes, it's natural to grieve, to cry, and to reminisce about what we've lost. But her story shows us the importance of finding new sources of joy and purpose. It's about striking that delicate balance between honoring the past and embracing the future. This is not easy, but it's vital for living a fulfilling life. even after experiencing a profound loss. Her resilience in finding that balance is deeply inspiring to me. Now, let me share the personal story of Laura Amber, whose journey is equally moving. Laura, 65, opened up about the complex emotional toll of her post-loss life. After her husband passed away, she found herself living with her daughter, believing wholeheartedly that family was the natural place of refuge. When you are young, you support your children, and when you are old, they support you, she thought. But life had a painful lesson in store for her. After pouring all her energy into helping her daughter's family, what she received in return wasn't gratitude or warmth, it was resentment. Can you imagine? Giving everything you have only to feel like a burden in the end. Laura recalls how she thought she would grow old alongside her husband, but an illness stole him away, leaving her to navigate life on her own. With a new grandchild on the way, her daughter and son-in-law welcomed her into their home. At first, everything seemed fine. She found comfort in seeing her grandchild, whom she saw as a reincarnation of her husband. She dedicated herself to helping with chores, and for a time, it felt like she had found her place again. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But slowly, the cracks began to show. Financial strain crept in, and while her daughter initially gave her money for expenses, it soon became clear that her pension wasn't enough for the family of 4. Over time, disagreements bubbled up, from spending habits to child-rearing philosophies. And with those disagreements came a loss of respect. I felt like a burden, Laura said, reflecting on her years living with her daughter. When she finally decided to move out, her daughter and son-in-law said they would miss her. But the relief in their voices was unmistakable. Once she was on her own again, loneliness hit her hard. The bustling life she had grown used to was gone, and the silence of her home was deafening. But Laura didn't let that be the end of her story. Instead, she embraced her solitude, rediscovering old passions like painting and calligraphy. She joined community groups and made new friends who shared her interests. Little by little, she built a life that was truly hers. After my husband passed away, I finally lived the retirement life I wanted, she shared, finding fulfillment in her newfound freedom. Her story is a reminder that life after loss can still be rich and meaningful if we dare to seek it. Both Callista's and Lasra's stories are deeply emotional and filled with lessons we can all learn from. They show us that loss, while painful, doesn't have to define the rest of our lives. There is still joy to be found, still purpose to be uncovered, and still a future worth living for. Their resilience is a beacon of hope, lighting the way for anyone who is struggling to find their path forward. Lasra Amber's story serves as a poignant reminder of the deep significance of independence and self-sufficiency in our later years. As we live longer, many of us are faced with the reality of continuing alone after the loss of a spouse, a situation that can feel incredibly daunting. While moving in with adult children may seem like a comforting solution, her experience sheds light on the unexpected emotional and practical challenges that can arise. Her journey is a powerful illustration of why maintaining personal independence is so crucial for the elderly. One of the key issues Lasra Amber encountered was the clash of generational differences. Living with her daughter and son-in-law, she was caught in the tension of different viewpoints on money, child rearing, and daily habits. These generational gaps are not unique to her situation. They are universal, even in places like the United States, where families often come together for support. Conflicts can emerge when elderly parents' desire for autonomy conflicts with their children's way of life. In Lasra's case, these differences led to frustration and resentment, highlighting how easily close relationships can become strained when personal beliefs and habits clash. Another heart-wrenching aspect of Lasra's story is the emotional toll of feeling like a burden. After years of dedicating herself to her daughter's household, she began to feel unappreciated, even resentful. This feeling of being a burden can weigh heavily on elderly parents, particularly in cultures like the United States where independence is prized. The thought of being seen as a hindrance rather than a source of support is emotionally exhausting. Lasra's experience underscores the painful reality that, despite good intentions, elderly parents living with their children can sometimes feel like an unwanted guest rather than a valued family member. This sense of being a burden can chip away at their self-worth, leading to feelings of loneliness and isolation, even when surrounded by loved ones. Perhaps the most inspiring part of Lasra Amber's journey was her eventual discovery of personal fulfillment after moving out and living on her own. In her solitude, she found the freedom to rediscover hobbies she had once loved, like calligraphy and painting, and she built a new circle of friends. Her story reminds us all of the importance of finding personal joy even in our golden years. Pursuing individual interests and staying socially engaged are not just pastimes, they are essential to a fulfilling retirement. In the United States, many elderly adults find purpose in community centers, clubs, and volunteer work. These activities provide not only a sense of belonging, but also an opportunity to live life on their terms, filled with personal meaning. Lasra's experience is a lesson in resilience and the enduring need for self-sufficiency. While it may seem easier to rely on family for support, there is unmatched value in maintaining one's own space, making independent choices, and pursuing passions. Her story is a testament to the fact that a satisfying, meaningful life in our later years doesn't depend on others, it's imbrigalat. Third story: finding a new partner or rushing into remarriage. Are you thinking about finding a new partner or marrying later in life? Before you take that step, take a moment to listen to Mrs. Fong's heartfelt story. At 62, she believed she had found companionship and hope after the devastating loss of her first husband. But what she didn't anticipate were the unexpected challenges and emotional distress that followed. Her experience is a poignant cautionary tale for anyone considering remarriage in their golden years. Through the lens of Laura Kelly's journey, we can explore the risks, complications, and hard truths about embarking on new marriages later in life, information that might just save you from future heartbreak and regrets. Laura Kelly, now 62, has lived through two very different marriages. She shares, "My first husband died when I was 53, and I was completely shattered. We had spent years planning our retirement together, dreaming of travel and adventure. But life had other plans, and his illness took him away before we could fulfill those dreams. After his death, I fell into a deep depression. My son noticed my sadness and tried to help, even suggesting I move in with him. But I didn't want to become a burden, so I threw myself into activities like dance and poetry to fill the void. That's when I met my second husband, Mr. C. Initially, their relationship seemed like a new beginning for Laura. It all started when I twisted my ankle one day after class, and Mr. C immediately came to my rescue. He took care of me while I recovered, and his kindness slowly drew us closer. 2 months later, he proposed, telling me he wanted to spend the rest of our lives together, supporting each other in our golden years. I was happy, of course, but also hesitant. I told him I'd need to talk to my son first. Her son, like many concerned children, advised her to be cautious. He didn't object, but he suggested I meet Mr. C's family and get to know them before rushing into anything. Looking back, I wish I had listened to him. I was so eager to feel that sense of companionship again that I ignored his warnings. A few days after meeting Mr. C's family, we registered our marriage, and I moved into his home. At first, everything seemed perfect. In the beginning, we got along just fine, even though I took on all the household chores. It felt like a small price to pay for the companionship I had longed for. But things took a turn when I decided to go on a trip with some friends. I accepted the invitation without hesitation, only for Mr. C to get upset, telling me no one would take care of the house while I was away. I was stunned. It was like he had hired me to be his housekeeper, not his wife. The argument that followed was intense, and for the first time I began to question my decision to remarry. But the worst was yet to come. Things got much worse after that. Mr. C's son went through a divorce, and we were suddenly tasked with taking care of his grandchild. I did my best, treating the child as if he were my own. But he was difficult to handle, picky with food, throwing tantrums, and I quickly grew overwhelmed. When I suggested that Mr. C's son should take more responsibility, Mr. C turned on me, telling me to stay out of it. He said, "You're not my grandchild's mother, so don't interfere." His words cut deeply. I suddenly realized how difficult it is to be accepted into a new family at this age, and how I had been deluding myself into thinking things would be easy. Laura endured the growing tension for months, trying to salvage the marriage, but eventually, she made the difficult decision to file for divorce. I just couldn't live like that anymore. The constant arguments, the lack of respect, and the feeling of being trapped in a situation that wasn't mine to fix it all became too much. Fortunately, the divorce process was simple, and I walked away with my peace of mind. Looking back, Laura has no regrets about her decision. Yes, living alone can be lonely sometimes, but it's far better than the emotional strain and constant conflict I endured in that second marriage. My experience taught me that remarrying in your later years is not as simple as it seems. It comes with complications you may not foresee, especially when children and grandchildren are involved. If I could offer one piece of advice, it would be this: don't rush into anything just because you're afraid of being alone. Sometimes solitude is the better option. At least in solitude, you are free, and your happiness is your own. Laura Kelly's journey reminds us that remarriage, especially later in life, is filled with challenges that can sometimes outweigh the benefits. It's not just about finding companionship again. It's about dealing with the complexities of merging lives, expectations, and families. Her story encourages us to carefully weigh our decisions before entering a new marriage, knowing that personal peace, freedom, and self-fulfillment are often more valuable than rushing into a relationship that could bring more harm than happiness. Now, I truly believe that living alone, though sometimes lonely, is far better than navigating the multitude of challenges that come with remarriage in later years. Laura Kelly's story is a profound example of why it's essential to understand the potential risks and complications that can arise when combining lives at an advanced age. Remarrying in your golden years may seem like a chance at companionship, but it can also bring unforeseen conflicts and emotional struggles that may outweigh the benefits. One of the biggest challenges in new marriages among older individuals is the deeply ingrained habits and viewpoints that both partners have developed over the decades. Unlike younger couples, who may still be flexible in their ways of thinking and living, older individuals often find it harder to adapt to a new partner's lifestyle and expectations. Laura Kelly experienced this firsthand when she and Mr. C clashed over household responsibilities and her travel plans. These differences, which may seem small at first, can cause significant stress and frustration over time. In Laura's case, something as simple as her decision to take a trip with friends ignited a fierce argument that shook the foundation of the family. The stress of constantly feeling like you have to compromise or change your way of life can make living together anything but harmonious. Another issue that can arise is acceptance from a new partner's family, which can be incredibly difficult to achieve, particularly when children and grandchildren are involved. Older couples may find themselves walking into family dynamics that have been well established for years, and any disruption to these routines can lead to resentment. Laura Kelly's experience highlights how this can play out. Mr. C's son and grandchild placed unexpected demands on their marriage, turning Laura's role from wife and companion to caregiver without the acceptance or gratitude she deserved. This lack of acceptance from family members can create an environment of constant tension, making it nearly impossible for the marriage to thrive. Imagine trying to build a new relationship, only to feel like an outsider in your partner's family. It can be emotionally exhausting, and over time, the pressure can break even the strongest of bonds. Emotional preparedness is another critical factor that cannot be overlooked. After the loss of a spouse, loneliness can be a powerful force driving someone to seek companionship quickly. The fear of facing the future alone can make the idea of remarriage feel like a lifeline, but it can also cloud judgment. Laura Kelly's story is a clear example of how the rush to remarry, spurred by loneliness and the desire to move on, can lead to overlooking potential red flags. Despite her son's well-meaning advice to take things slow and observe, she hurried into marriage, driven by the hope of finding happiness again. Unfortunately, this haste only led to another painful divorce. Laura's experience underscores the importance of emotional healing before jumping into a new relationship. Taking time to assess one's own needs, expectations, and emotional readiness is crucial for avoiding the heartbreak of another failed marriage. Lastly, we must not ignore the practical considerations that come with remarrying later in life, particularly the financial and the complications. Although Laura Kelly's story doesn't delve deeply into this aspect, it's a reality that many older adults face. Inheritance disputes, healthcare decisions, and property division can all become sources of conflict in new marriages. It's essential to address these issues early on, with open communication and legal safeguards in place. Without proper planning, these matters can quickly become contentious, adding another layer of stress to an already challenging situation. Laura Kelly's journey serves as a powerful reminder of the complexities that come with remarrying in later years. It's not just about finding companionship, it's about understanding the potential challenges both emotional and practical, that can arise. Her story encourages us to approach marriage with caution, patience, and a clear sense of self, ensuring that the decision to enter a new relationship is grounded in emotional readiness and careful consideration, rather than a fear of loneliness. In the end, living alone may come with its own challenges, but it can also offer a sense of peace and freedom that is often harder to find within the confines of a complicated marriage. Part 3. How to live independently and safely in your golden years. As we age, the desire for independence and the ability to live life on our own terms often grows stronger. Living alone can bring numerous benefits, including greater freedom, a sense of control over daily decisions, and the opportunity to explore personal interests. However, it's essential to approach this lifestyle with thoughtful planning and careful preparation. This article offers practical advice for elderly individuals who seek to live independently and safely, ensuring they can thrive while aging gracefully. Prioritizing health and well-being. The foundation of a fulfilling, independent life starts with taking care of your health. Regular medical checkups are key to catching any potential health issues early, and managing medications properly ensures that you're staying on top of chronic conditions. But health doesn't stop at doctor's appointments, it extends to daily habits. A balanced diet filled with nutrient-rich foods, combined with regular physical activity, can significantly improve your physical and mental well-being. Even light exercise, such as walking or yoga, can enhance strength, flexibility, and overall mood. Fall prevention is another critical aspect of staying safe at home. Removing clutter from hallways, installing grab bars in the bathroom, and placing non-slip mats in high-risk areas like the kitchen and bathroom can reduce the risk of accidents. A fall can be a serious setback, but taking simple precautions helps make your home safer and allows you to live with more confidence. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. The importance of social connections. Staying socially connected is just as important as physical health when it comes to aging well. Loneliness can hurt both mental and physical health, so maintaining relationships with family, friends, and community is crucial. Joining clubs or hobby groups, volunteering, or simply spending time with loved ones can give your life meaning and joy. These social activities provide a sense of purpose and keep your mind engaged. In this digital age, staying connected doesn't have to be limited to in-person interactions. Embracing technology, whether it's through video calls, social media, or online communities, allows you to stay in touch with the people who matter most, no matter where they are. Technology can be a wonderful tool to bridge the gap between distance and time, keeping you engaged with the world around you. Financial planning for security. Financial stability is essential for living independently. Creating and sticking to a budget can help ensure that you're living within your means, while also setting aside money for emergencies. Consider consulting a financial advisor to discuss long-term care insurance or investment options that can help cover future healthcare costs. Reviewing your finances regularly ensures you stay on track and are prepared for any unexpected expenses. It's also worth considering the potential need for assisted living or in-home care as you age. Having a financial plan in place for these possibilities provides peace of mind, knowing that you'll be able to access the care you need without straining your resources. Home safety, creating a safe and comfortable living space. Your home should be a place of comfort, but it also needs to be safe. Regular maintenance, such as checking smoke detectors, ensuring fire extinguishers are working, and having an emergency kit on hand is essential. A safe home environment protects you from everyday hazards and helps you remain self-reliant. In addition to basic safety precautions, you might want to consider making your home more accessible. Simple modifications such as installing ramps, widening doorways, and adding grab bars can make it easier to navigate your home and reduce the risk of injury. A medical alert system is another valuable addition. It provides an extra layer of security by offering immediate access to help in case of an emergency. Embracing technology for easier living. Technology can greatly enhance your ability to live independently. From smart home devices that control lighting and temperature with voice commands to telehealth services that allow you to consult with doctors from home. Modern technology offers countless ways to make daily tasks easier and more convenient. Tools like medication reminders, online grocery shopping, and virtual assistant devices help simplify your life, giving you more time to focus on the things you enjoy. However, it's important to be mindful of online scams and digital fraud, which often target older adults. Make sure to use secure websites, avoid sharing personal information with strangers, and be cautious of unsolicited emails or phone calls. Learning how to use technology safely can give you confidence and enable you to enjoy the many benefits it offers without fear. Maintaining a positive attitude. Lastly, maintaining a positive attitude is crucial for aging gracefully. Focusing on what you can do, rather than what you can't, allows you to enjoy life to the fullest. Surrounding yourself with positive influences, whether through friendships, family, or hobbies, will help you remain mentally and emotionally strong. Aging doesn't mean giving up on your dreams or passions. It's an opportunity to embrace new experiences, continue learning, and live life on your terms. By prioritizing your health, staying socially engaged, managing your finances, maintaining a safe home, embracing technology, and keeping a positive outlook, you can live independently, safely, and happily in your golden years. This stage of life is an opportunity to focus on what truly matters to you and create a fulfilling, meaningful life. As we wrap up, we hope this video has provided you with valuable insights on how to live independently and safely in your golden years. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What have you learned so far? Is there one piece of advice that stood out to you that you'll start practicing in your own life? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to know what steps you're taking toward a safer, more fulfilling independent life. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more helpful tips and inspiring stories. Your support means the world to us.